The stars stretched endlessly above the Valkar capital, a city of towers that glimmered like glass and gold. Evan and the princess, Sarathia, arrived in a small transport, the hum of human engines blending strangely with the alien atmosphere. Soldiers and scientists alike watched from a distance, unsure of how to react to this human who had given his blood to the princess. Sarathia walked beside Evan, her movements graceful yet confident. She no longer seemed fragile. The hybrid blood had changed her. She could feel strength in her muscles, clarity in her mind, and a connection to Evan that was both human and alien. It was as if his courage and compassion had not only saved her life, but had altered the very course of her existence. The Valkar Council awaited her. She entered the great hall, glowing faintly, and all eyes turned. For centuries, Valkar leaders had been trained to fear humanity. They saw humans as weak, chaotic, and unpredictable. Yet here stood Sarathia, healthy and powerful, with the man who had saved her life beside her. The council chamber was silent. The elders whispered among themselves, questioning what had been done, whether the princess's life could be trusted after receiving human blood. Some muttered about corruption, others about rebellion. They had never seen a human perform such an act of courage for a Valkar before. Sarathia raised her hand. I am alive because of him, not because of your rules, not because of your traditions, because of courage, compassion, and choice. Her voice echoed through the hall, commanding attention. By ancient right, I owe him loyalty, not as a servant, not as a weapon, but as a sister of blood. The council erupted into debate, voices rising in anger and confusion. Many could not accept the notion that a human had saved the life of a royal, and that the princess now owed him loyalty. Some demanded she be detained, while others argued that her decision must be respected. Evan felt the tension in the room and stepped forward. He spoke slowly, carefully, choosing each word. I am no one of importance here. I am simply a human who acted out of compassion. The rest of you may fear what this means, but fear cannot guide the future. Only understanding can. Whispers turned into murmurs. Some council members nodded, though reluctantly. Others simply stared, unsure of what to believe. Sarathia's voice cut through again. We share something deeper than politics. We share life. His blood runs within me. That is not corruption. That is evolution. Outside the chamber, human diplomats and soldiers watched nervously. They knew that this moment could define the future of human-Valkar relations. One mistake could spark war. One gesture of trust could spark peace. Over the next few days, scientists studied Sarathia's physiology. They discovered remarkable changes. Her healing abilities were extraordinary, her strength beyond any Valkar norm. Even more astonishing, her mind began to pick up patterns in human behavior. She seemed to sense intention, emotion, and thought in ways that no one had ever seen. Evan observed quietly, letting her adjust to her new reality. He was careful not to interfere, knowing that her growth was natural, driven by the bond they shared. He saw her struggle at times, the pressure of leadership, the whispers of fear, and the expectations of her people. Yet each day she grew stronger, more confident, and more determined to unite the species. Tensions rose when rumors began to spread among the Valkar. Some claimed Sarathia had been tainted by human blood, that she could no longer be trusted to lead her people. Others whispered about her powers, calling her a threat that needed to be controlled. Evan feared the worst. If the council lost control, they might attempt to remove her by force. Then the human diplomats received a message from deep space. Scouts had detected unusual activity, biosignatures that matched the hybrid resonance between humans and Valkar. It seemed the transfer of blood had awakened something ancient, a genetic memory hidden within both species. The same bioweapons that had been used in the war were not new. They were derived from human DNA from thousands of years ago. Somehow humans and Valkar were linked in ways no one had realized. Evan and Sarathia met in the palace gardens, the golden towers shimmering around them. It's more than a bond, Evan said, his voice low. Your people and mine. We're connected, not just by blood but by history. Something ancient is waking up. Sarathia nodded. I can feel it. The strength, the understanding, the empathy. It is more than life. It is evolution. And it is happening now because of what you did. The situation escalated when extremists on both sides began plotting. Some humans feared the princess's new abilities. Some Valkar feared her alliance with a human. Both sides prepared for confrontation, misunderstanding the power that had been created. Then the first battle began. A faction of rogue Valkar soldiers attempted to take control of the palace, believing that the princess had betrayed them. At the same time, a human extremist group tried to capture her, thinking she had become a weapon of the enemy. The chaos erupted, and the palace shook with conflict. Scifi moved quickly, her new abilities allowing her to sense the intentions of her attackers. She did not fight to destroy but to protect. Evan followed closely, defending her when necessary but allowing her to act with her powers. Together they coordinated a defense that seemed impossible. The soldiers on both sides paused, stunned by the display. Scifi's golden blood shimmered and waves of energy pulsed through the air. She did not harm anyone unnecessarily. She only neutralized threats and created barriers to protect her allies. Human and Valkar alike began to see her not as a weapon or a threat, but as a bridge. From that moment, a remarkable transformation began. Soldiers on both sides hesitated, then stopped fighting. The humans who had come to see the princess as dangerous now saw her as extraordinary. The Valkar who had whispered of betrayal now watched her with awe. Slowly they laid down their weapons, recognizing the connection that Evan had created through a single act of courage. In the following weeks, negotiations began. Scifi, with Evan at her side, met with the leaders of both species. She spoke of shared history, shared genetics, and shared responsibility. "We are not enemies," she told them. "We are linked by life. Our survival depends on cooperation, not war. The blood that saved me can guide the future of us all." Evan listened, proud but humble. He knew he had only acted out of instinct, not ambition. Yet his action had sparked something greater than himself. Humanity had shown its strength not through weapons, but through courage and compassion. And the Valkar were beginning to understand that strength in a way that changed their perception forever. The council slowly accepted the princess's new role. She was not a ruler of conquest, but a ruler of unity. She established a new council, including humans and Valkar alike, to guide both species toward peace. Scientists continued to study her abilities, finding that her hybrid blood was not dangerous. It was a gift, a sign of potential for cooperation and evolution. One evening, Evan stood beside Scifi as they watched the twin suns set over the city. The towers reflected golden light onto the gardens, and the air was calm, almost peaceful. The battle was over, and the future was uncertain, but hope burned brightly. "You did this," Scifi said softly, looking at him. "Without you, none of this would be possible." Evan shook his head. "I just did what anyone would do. But you chose to use it. That makes the difference." Her eyes glimmered. "Then together we will change the galaxy. One life, one choice, one act of courage at a time." As night fell, the stars shone over the Valkar capital, brighter than Evan had ever seen. Somewhere among them, he knew, humans and Valkar would build a future together. A future where war was not inevitable, where trust could exist between species, and where courage and compassion could shape the destiny of entire worlds. And somewhere deep inside him, Evan realized something else. This was only the beginning. The hybrid resonance, born from a single act of human kindness, had awakened potential in both species. Across the galaxy, life was beginning to stir in ways no one could predict. He smiled faintly, thinking of the countless worlds waiting beyond the stars. They would face challenges, fear, and uncertainty, but humanity had shown that it could rise above hatred and chaos. Through courage, compassion, and even a single act of blood, the galaxy had been changed forever. Scifi placed her hand on his arm. "The universe is vast," she said, "but together we can face it, not as human and alien, but as life itself." Evan nodded. He could feel the pulse of life, not just in her, but in the galaxy itself. A rhythm of hope, courage, and unity echoing across the stars. Humanity had given blood, but the universe had gained a bond that would never be broken. And in the quiet of the night, with the twin suns gone and the stars shining, he understood the truth. One small act of courage could change everything. One life saved could change countless others. And in the heart of the universe, hope had been born. The blood that had once saved a princess now flowed as a symbol of unity, courage, and the incredible strength of humanity. Across the galaxy, whispers began. Humans were not just survivors. They were teachers, healers, and catalysts for evolution. And so the story of Evan and Scifi became legend. Not because of war, not because of weapons, but because a human had dared to give his blood. And through that act, A new era for the galaxy had begun. The stars above twinkled like a promise. The ruins of Thalrune stretched endlessly under a pale, toxic sky. Crumbling towers leaned against each other like tired soldiers, and smoke rose from the shattered remains of alien cities. Lieutenant Dr. Evan Cole walked cautiously through the debris, scanning with his helmet sensors. The war had been brutal. Both humans and the Valkar had suffered unimaginable losses, and now the silence was almost deafening. Evan had joined the expedition as a combat medic and field biologist. His job was to study alien life and help any survivors, but nothing in his training had prepared him for what he would find that day. Among the ruins, he noticed a flicker of golden light. It was faint, almost like a reflection, but it moved. He ran toward it, ducking under beams and rubble until he found the source. She lay half buried under a collapsed wall. Her body was fragile, her limbs trembling, and her skin shimmered in golden tones that almost glowed. She was young, barely older than a human teenager, yet the grace in her posture suggested royalty. Her chest rose and fell shallowly, and Evan's stomach tightened. She was dying. "Princess," he whispered, not knowing if she could understand him. He scanned her vitals with his portable device. Her blood pressure was almost zero. Her heart beat weakly. "She won't make it without help," he muttered. Evan's mind raced. The battlefield medics had already declared the Valkar dead or dying. He knew that the Valkar were a proud species, one that had enslaved human colonies long ago. But the sight of this young girl, defenseless and alone, broke something in him. He had treated countless humans who were hurt in the field, and he could not walk away from this. He carefully lifted the rubble off her body. Her golden eyes opened slightly, clouded with pain and confusion. She tried to speak, but no sound came. He could see the edges of her teeth, delicate, sharp, and unlike anything he had seen. Her alien features made him hesitate for only a moment before his instincts took over. His scanner showed a shocking truth. She had lost almost all her blood. No medical protocol could save her unless someone supplied a compatible blood transfusion immediately. Evan's stomach twisted. "There's nothing human in her physiology that matches ours. Except maybe me," he said softly. The odds were astronomical. A human blood transfusion had only a tiny chance of working, but there was no other option. Her own species had been wiped out, her blood system fragile and unstable. Evan made a decision that would change the course of history. He instructed his assistant, a junior medic named Lena, to prepare the transfusion line. They worked quickly, their movements precise despite the fear that gripped them. Every second mattered. Evan cleaned his arm, attached the line, and connected it to the princess's veins. "She might die anyway," Lena whispered, her voice trembling. "Are you sure about this?" Evan nodded. "If she dies, she dies. But if I don't try, she definitely dies. I can't let that happen." As his blood began to flow into her, the princess convulsed once, then fell still. Evan's heart pounded. Monitors beeped erratically. For minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then her golden eyes fluttered open, wider and clearer than before. She gasped, her chest rising steadily. "It's working," Evan whispered. Relief washed over him, but he did not relax. Her body was reacting in ways he had never seen before. The golden hue of her blood began to blend with his own red cells, creating strange patterns that shimmered under the monitor lights. Hours passed. The battlefield was quiet except for distant fires and the occasional collapse of structures. Evan stayed by her side, keeping her stable. He noticed that her movements became stronger, her breathing deeper. The hybrid blood seemed to be not just stabilizing her, but giving her strength. When she finally sat up, she looked at him with eyes that reflected both confusion and curiosity. "You gave your blood to me?" she asked in a voice that was musical but unfamiliar. Evan had no translator for her exact words, but he understood the meaning. "I did," he replied simply. "You were dying." Her gaze lingered on him, studying him as if trying to decide whether he was friend or enemy. Around them, the ruins whispered of the war, the loss, and the lives that had been destroyed. Yet in this small space, a fragile connection was forming, a bond born of desperation and courage. When the Valkar fleet appeared on scanners to retrieve their princess, Evan froze. They would not understand what had happened. To them, a human giving blood to a royal was unthinkable. He braced for consequences he could not imagine. The princess stepped forward, now fully standing, her form glowing faintly from the human blood that flowed within her. Her alien guards, arriving with the fleet, looked confused and wary. She raised a hand, a gesture of command, and then knelt before Evan. The human soldiers in the nearby camp watched in stunned silence. The Valkar guards did not move. The princess's words were strange to human ears, but the tone was clear. She was showing respect, gratitude, and an acknowledgement of a debt she could not ignore. Evan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had risked everything, defied orders, and saved a life. And in doing so, he had created something new. Not a weapon, not a soldier, not a tool, but a bridge between two species that had once fought and hated each other. Lena, still watching from behind, whispered, "Do you think she'll forgive us for the war?" Evan shook his head slowly. "I don't think it's about forgiveness. I think it's about choice. She can choose peace because of what we did today." The princess stood, her golden blood now infused with a faint red shimmer from Evan's veins. She looked at the approaching fleet, then back at him. For the first time, Evan saw a human emotion reflected in alien eyes. Trust. As the Valkar transport ships descended, she spoke again, this time in a series of clicks and tones. Her translator devices struggled to keep up, but the meaning was clear. "By the life you gave me, I owe you loyalty. Not as a servant, not as a weapon, as a sister of blood." Evan's breath caught. Loyalty from a Valkar royal was unheard of. It could change the politics of the entire galaxy. The fleet commander, confused and cautious, signaled his ships to hold. The princess's decision stunned them. Her body, healing faster than expected, now displayed abilities that human scientists had only theorized: heightened senses, rapid regeneration, even the faint shimmer of telepathic resonance. For Evan, it was both thrilling and terrifying. He had saved her life, but he had also created something that no one could fully understand. The implications stretched far beyond the ruins of Thalrun. Human and Valkar history, once defined by war and oppression, was now being rewritten by a single act of courage and compassion. That night, as the fires of battle smoldered in the distance, Evan sat beside the princess. She had chosen to stay close, studying him silently. The stars above were unfamiliar alien constellations that seemed to mirror the unknown future they now faced together. "Will they hate you?" Evan asked quietly. "Your people. The ones who lost everything?" She shook her head slowly. "They will fear what I have become. But fear can be guided. Hate can be healed. You gave me life. Now I can give my people a choice." Evan realized that this was the beginning of something much larger than either of them. A war could be fought with weapons, but peace required courage. It required trust, and it required humans to do what they often did best: to risk themselves for the lives of others, even when the odds were impossible. He smiled faintly, exhausted, but certain of one thing: humanity had never looked more alive. As dawn broke over Thalrun, the princess rose fully, her eyes glowing with the strange light of shared blood. She extended her hand to Evan. "Come with me," she said, her voice a mixture of alien and human cadence. "The galaxy will not wait for us, and neither will the future." Evan stood, brushing dust from his uniform. He took her hand, feeling the warmth of life, human and alien, flowing between them. In that moment, he knew the galaxy would never be the same again. The blood that had saved her life had also created a bond that could unite two species. And in the quiet aftermath of war, that bond was humanity's greatest weapon. The ruins of Thalrun held their secrets. But one truth was clear. One man's courage had sparked hope for an entire world. And hope, as Evan knew, was stronger than any army. The stars above glittered like a promise,